All right, get your copy of The Mummy Returns to timestamp 0 in 3, 2, 1, play. So the thing I noticed off the bat about this that I found really funny is that this was only made like 2 years later, but in
Yes.
universe, like a decade has passed, but it doesn't
Well,
look like that.
yeah, okay. So the timeline of this movie is fucked, and I hope I'm able to point out like all the instances where it is not consistent.
Okay,
Offici- Officially, I believe it is set 7 years after the previous one, according to the title card.
okay.
But like for example, there's a line later where Rick is like looking at like the ritual, and he's like, a couple years ago, this would have been really weird. I'm like, no, that wasn't a couple years ago. That was like 8 years ago.
Okay, so I wasn't sure if he was referring to the first movie or uh or just something else. We have Draven in the chat that says, "Screws Gollum. We're about to get CGI Scorpion King." Oh, we'll talk about it.
Yeah,
So, because
there he
you're
is.
not
There's
a
the Rock.
yes. Back when he was actually trying to be an actor, and for what it's worth, I think he's fine in this movie.
Yeah.
However, because I don't think you're not a God of War fan, uh, this is the same backstory as Kratos, except Kratos is obviously Greek mythology. Kratos is a Spartan warrior that pledges his soul to Ares and becomes a soldier for Ares. Except he doesn't become evil. This is the exact after. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. He sells his soul to Ares for victory against his enemies after losing a war, which is the exact same thing that's happening here. Uh, do you think? Do you think this is too big for this movie? Like, are we setting the stakes too high, or the scales, or
I don't have a problem with that. I do like this opening battle, and
yeah?
for the little screen time we get of the Rock, he's fun. It, and of course, I've not seen the Scorpion King yet, but I've always gotten the vibe that it's that's also just kind of the Rock playing Conan the Barbarian.
Yes, from memory.
Um,
It has like nothing to do with this.
I watched a really funny interview with him after or around when this movie came out, where he talks about becoming an actor and hyping up the Scorpion King spinoff. And the lady interviewing him is like, "So you've said that the Scorpion King isn't a sequel or a prequel, so which is it?" And he's like, "It's neither. It is a spinoff." And I'm like, I mean, it's a spinoff prequel. Like it's half one of the it is one of those things. But okay.
Hmm. My thing is, from memory, I haven't seen that movie since I was a kid. It doesn't match up with this. Um,
Interesting. But also, like, I sure as hell don't know if all the direct-to-video
oh
sequels matched
yeah.
up with this, where he's played by different actors.
Tyler says that this movie is the definition of harmless fun. Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, to be honest, I love the first one. I could also make that same argument about that one. Like, it's not trying to be a art house cinema.
No, and
This
so
is
far,
gross.
everything looks really good, and then you get that CGI grass. It's like, oh, sign of things to come.
That is disgusting. Yeah, now we're in a PS2 game.
Yes. I will say though, to defend some CGI, these Anubis guys, I think they look pretty cool for the little
I
human.
think the like undead minions are fine. Cause like I don't need those to look realistic. They're zombies. They can look a little. It's it's the environments. They recreate the sand thing, but with water later, and it looks like a PS1 game.
Yep.
That is probably my biggest criticism of this movie. Is a lot of the set pieces are, well, here's something you remember from the first movie, just slightly different. You remember when he made the face in the sand, and it was cool and creepy. Here's water.
Yeah. And look, I have a lot of lore questions about this movie. We'll get into it, especially in relation to the first one.
So the yeah, we will. What I will say is this does what I hate when sequels do, is we have to make the main character the most important person in history. So now instead of just being an adventurer guy that they find in a prison, he's some ancient warrior that doesn't know that he is one.
Or he's just a descendant. I'm not sure. This shot's really cool though. Of him in
Yes.
silhouette.
And
Nice
now instead of just being a person with an interest in like Egyptian mythology and ancient artifacts, Evie is now the reincarnation of the pharaoh from the first one's daughter,
who we never saw before.
Yes. I laughed like a lunatic during that flashback. Everyone else is kind of at least looks of the proper like ethnicity, and then you have white ass Rachel Weisz.
I mean, at least she's not blonde. I don't know.
The 2000s were a wonderful
It's
time.
fine. It's fine. We're all fine. Everything's fine.
Tyler says they should have brought back Benny for this one. I don't. I know you're probably joking.
I think that would have been a step too far.
Yeah. Make Benny the mummy, and then we'll talk. However, I want to give so much praise to Fraser. He carries this movie on his back.
Yeah. Him and Rachel Weisz. I think.
Whoa. Adam Arch says this is the best Mummy movie. You are wrong, sir. The first one is the best Mummy movie.
I prefer the first one.
How do you feel about this kid?
I think he's fine. I don't love him, but he also could be worse. Like, I've seen worse. Like, I think he's fine.
I think I might have saw a bit of the animated show before I saw this. So I thought that the bracelet he gets later was going to be way more important than it is. Because in the show, it's like a superpower from memory.
Mm-hmm. So this kid, like... Okay, so according to the title cards, the first movie is primarily set in 1926, and this is 1933. So according to those, this is 7 years later. Which, I mean, that kid looks a little older than 7, and I think
I think he's like 10 or 11, yeah.
Yeah, I think he refers to himself as an 8-year-old. Like, the timeline of this movie's fucked. Like,
yeah.
But that kid is like the entire reason why this is set several years later and not 2 years later. It's because they want to introduce a kid.
You know, so I want to give this movie kudos at least. This isn't a movie that feels the need to reset everyone's character to the first one. Like, Rick and Evie are allowed to grow and have a family. I just wish we weren't so sloppy with it. Adam Arch says that he'll take this one, then 99, then the Christopher Lee one, and then the 30s. Other than this and 99, I agree with that. And then under like 50 piles of shit is the new Blumhouse one.
I'd say those are pretty much all the ones I like. I do like this gag. We see actual scorpions and things, and this is a fun choice that she's like stepping around them, and then he just walks, squishes them.
Well, and I like that she holds up these like tiny ass tools, and he's like, "Please," and she's fine. We'll do it your way.
He must have really good boots to be that like nonchalant, just walking through scorpions. This is why I'm not an adventurer.
Oh, it's also because you took that arrow to the knee.
Yes.
We don't talk about that too often.
But yeah. So, like I said, the kid I'm mixed on, especially just given how quickly we rushed out the sequel. Like, this is only 2 years later. I don't know why it's not just set a couple years later, but I guess I just wanted a kid.
Although, I will say, if there's one thing I am happy about with this kid, it's him and that one guy's, like, rivalry throughout this movie. That guy hates this kid, and it's hilarious. Javen, where's the Tom Cruise one? Somewhere near Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, wherever.
I'd probably rather rewatch Tomb of the Dragon Emperor.
The only thing the Tom Cruise one that I rewatch is just that trailer without the sound effects because it's a beautiful work of art. Tom Cruise screaming with like no background noise is hilarious. Adam Marsh says the best Mummy thing is the Revenge of the Mummy ride. Yeah, but
That is a good ride.
we're talking movies. This is
Yeah,
such
and
a movie character thing too. It's been 7 years and he's still wearing the same outfit.
yes. Well, that's just what people did in the 30s.
Oh, okay.
But like these sets are still really cool. I'm conflicted on the Evie reincarnation thing. To their credit, that's at least going back to lore from the 30s movie and doing something
So
with that. It's just very retroactive.
that either needed to be in the first one, or cast another actress for these flashbacks. Like, dear Lord.
I'm fine with it.
I think the other thing is, I think you get one or the other. Either she's the reincarnation of this person that we never heard of in the first one, or Rick is this
Yes.
member of a secret order. You can't do both.
Yeah, and they really I do like this gag of her waving the torch back and forth to try to
Yeah.
trigger it again. But yeah, everything with that just feels very hand wavy. Like, it's fate, it's destiny. Don't think about it. Like that's
Well, and
this movie's
especially
explanation for all that. Like, it's just destiny.
especially with
But
him, because we established that he's got that tattoo, and then the guy from the
Which he didn't
first
have the
movie
first
says, which he didn't have in the, well, I don't believe that he had it in the first one anyway.
right.
Which the guy explains, and then it just, I don't think it's ever brought up again after we get the explanation. Like, you remove that, I don't think anything in this movie changes.
Right. It comes up at least twice. Even with Evie, like, it's debatable how necessary that is for the plot. Yes, it gets the ball rolling, how like she has these visions, she knows these things, but I feel like if you took that subplot out, you wouldn't be removing
No, I feel like that
that
would be
much.
more important for the last movie.
Right. Yeah, and okay, big question I have. Why in the first movie did Emo Hep never
Emo
go,
Hep?
"Hey, what Emo Hep? Hey, bitch, why do you look like the Pharaoh's daughter?" I know
Well,
you.
and then it's weirder too, because then you also have in this one, her. Okay, actually, I'm going to argue the reincarnation is a little more important, because the human villain in this is also the
Yeah,
reincarnation of
of
his
Uncle Simone.
lover. But again, then where were you in the last movie?
Yeah, I have a lot of lore questions.
I love this new gang of bad guys. I think they're hilarious. That one
I
guy's always going on about places being cursed.
He's my favorite.
So earlier, while we were talking, she's twisting like a door open, but has the same handle as the books of the dead and life from the first movie. So am I to
Yeah,
believe in this universe that all of ancient Egypt just used the same locking mechanics for everything?
if it works, it works.
And
But
then obviously
as
in Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, we get adult Alex. And
yes,
I don't remember anything
who
about him.
who is supposed to be like 20, but he looks 30. I don't know how old that actor was at the time. That okay, so this movie being set like 7 or 8 years after the first one, whatever. I could roll with it. The next movie, it's a problem when Rick O'Connell should be like in his 50s and he looks the same age.
Can't wait to do that commentary.
Yay. Are you looking forward to the next movie where they kill off Alex and then Rick and Evie are divorced and depressed? I'm just
If
gonna keep
that's
saying that just to make it not happen.
if that is in the trailer, I'm not watching that movie. I'm not.
I'm I'm gonna be pissed.
I'm still annoyed they did that for the Scrubs reboot. Not
Oh
to
my
that
god.
extent. But I don't know if you know this, but the big thing in the Scrubs reboot is the main couple from the original show, JD and Elliot, divorced off screen. Don't do that.
Like you said earlier, that is one of the big points I'll give this movie. It doesn't do the sequel thing where they're broken up and they hate each other so they can go through their same arc of falling in love again. No, they're just married and are
Yeah.
really in love and their chemistry is great
The
and that's
the one that
nice.
I always think of with that is Zombieland 2, where every
Oh
character
yeah.
has the exact same arc. I couldn't deal with that movie. It's like nothing has progressed.
National Treasure 2 does it.
And I remember not liking National Treasure 2, but I haven't seen that since theaters.
These water stunts are pretty cool. I like that this is all practical.
Yeah, a lot of the stunts in this are really cool. That bus chase is awesome.
That sequence is amazing. Like, I think this is a very okay movie with some great action.
Yeesh.
And here we get the bookcase gag from the first one, but bigger. Now
Of
it's
course.
pillars.
Also with water.
Right.
What is it with this movie and water?
This movie really likes water.
Is this the best Returns movie? Because normally Returns is like a generic subtitle.
It's up there. I mean, if we're counting Return of the Jedi, put that over
Yeah.
this.
I don't think I count that because that's not something returns. That's the return
Right,
of something,
right.
which I know
Star
is
Wars
completely.
Return.
What was it? Because I know that had a different title at some point. What was it again?
What, Star Wars Return?
Return of the Jedi had a different title at one point.
That was originally Revenge of the Jedi.
I kind of like that title. I think Return of the Jedi probably works better.
It does work, but then they were able to recycle it with Revenge of the Sith, so I think it
Which is the greatest movie ever made, but
objectively.
Yeah. And we should mention they got Steven Summers back for this. I always forget about that. So it's not the case of somebody coming in and doing like a hack job to somebody else's work. Like,
yeah, no, he comes back to write and direct this. Like, it is the studio going to the same guy and saying, "Do that again."
do we know if he's coming back for the new one?
I haven't heard any involvement from him. I don't know if he's like retired or in Hollywood jail. I don't know what's going on with Steven Summers.
Come back.
So this guy's great, who becomes Alex's rival.
Yes.
Villain. And this actor, I believe, is the dude who I'll have to fact check this. I think he's the dude that plays Killer Croc in Suicide Squad.
Is it? Because I know who that is. Let me check. Yes, it is. He also plays Curse in Thor: The Dark World, and I know him best as Mr. Echo in Lost.
Okay. I always really liked him in this movie, and I was really excited when he was cast as Killer Croc, and then he gets like.
I maintain that he is one of the best parts of that movie for all that he gets to do.
Sure.
I mean, Robert, the bar is down here with that movie. So like anything that is slightly good. I also love this guy, the like head of them.
Yes, and I believe Steven Summers brings him back for Van Helsing, because isn't he like the guy that Van Helsing works for at the church?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Is that the cult? Yeah, that'd be the cult leader.
Yeah.
Yes, Cardinal Jennett and Van Helsing.
Yeah.
He's also in Aragon. Yeah. That movie sucked.
As is Rachel Weisz, apparently.
In Aragon?
I think so. I think she's a voice in that.
Oh yeah, she's the dragon.
That's good casting.
People kind of complain about those books rightfully for being ripoffs, but I'd still like to see a movie made out of that. That's good.
That seems like the exact property we would make a streaming show now.
Because I don't know if you've ever read those. The initial
Or the
setup
first
is
one.
just Star Wars. Like, it's not even subtle when somebody points it out. And then,
Uh,
last thing I'll rant about this because I now I'm thinking about it. So that the last book, because it was originally supposed to be 3 and then became 4. The last book came out after Deathly Hollows. So lo and behold, in the last
uh,
book, there was a bunch of little things that he had to go around and collect to beat the big bad. And I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" This is all really cool.
yeah. I also think it's neat that they do bring this actress back as the reincarnation of Ankh Moon. Because I feel like that's such a small role that most other movies would just go, oh, just recast her. Nobody's gonna notice. So it's cool that it's the same actress.
Yeesh. Um, and it is kind of funny that we've spent more time explaining how the villain comes back than most slasher movies do.
It's true. But yeah, I think that is one of the shortcomings of this movie, though, with Ankh Moon. Like, there's just so many characters in this movie and so much going on that when you're introducing Ankh Moon's reincarnation, I wish we were asking more questions about where were you in the first movie? Why didn't we know about this?
Yeah.
How did she find out about this? How did she and this cult meet each other? There's a lot of stuff I wish we explained more with them. Like, I wish she was more developed.
Yeah, but at the same time, for the like old time action adventure movie that they're going for, I do kind of like that they just go, "Here's the villains, here's the good guys, we're off." But that then becomes a problem when we start like trying to build a lore out of it.
Hmm.
Instead of all that, give Jonathan more things to do.
Yeah, he's great when he's there.
Remember Indiana Jones?
I remember. Yeah, I do remember a time when these movies, especially that first one, weren't as beloved as they are now. And a common thing you saw was people saying, "Ah, they're just Indiana Jones ripoffs," and it's like, so are you just not allowed to make like other adventure period piece movies? Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, the first movie's great.
No, people are weird about that. Like something comes out that's beloved in the genre, and people act like they can't do anything else with the genre, and I'm like, we've run out of movies to make. I love this where Rick just predicts everything that is have to do with this, because like that's just how it always goes.
Yeah, their banter is still really good. I think the dialogue and the character interactions, all of that in this movie is very, very solid. It's just not half as memorable or as quotable as the first movie is. And that's one of my issues with it. Like, it's funny and enjoyable while I'm watching it, but that first movie has so many quotable lines that will live rent free in my head
Well,
for the rest of my
the
life. This
and just
doesn't
even
have
just
that.
scenes like I will always think of Rick yelling at the monster after it roars at him or the cat. I don't nothing in this is that memorable to me. Like, oh, he
Mm.
he poked one in the eyes and got jelly on his fingers. Okay.
Yeah, like it's very watchable. You know, it's very well executed. It's Does this count as a New Year's movie?
No.
Well, don't put on the magic bracelet.
I know I've gotten old when I think that Rick and Evelyn should beat that kid's ass for this. You should know better at this point.
Well, and to its credit, it doesn't do that thing where like the kid hates the parents and then
No.
they have to make up later. Like, no, they're
That
just a chill
the
family
kid
that
does
likes
have
each
the
other.
one line I remember because it was trailer fodder that my dad's gonna kick your ass. I also have something with the kid later in the bus that I think is really funny because it's so staged, but
Oh my god. Oh, and John, your movie audio is coming through just a little bit.
oh, I forgot to change the volume. I have to. I I love the Craig Garrett Bond movies. I hate the volume mixing on them, at least the digital copies. I have to like
Mm.
crank it to hear the dialogue, and then an action scene starts, and it makes me want to go deaf.
That's just modern cinema in general.
Fuck you, Nolan.
So one thing I will always be conflicted about with this movie is just if it was a mistake to do Emotep again or not, or if it just should have been the Scorpion King,
I'm
like
also
just a new
conflicted
villain.
because on one hand, I've seen what happens to this franchise when we don't have Emotep, but
Yeah.
also I think The Rock is a better fit. The Scorpion King is a villain in The Rock, whether you love him or hate him, is a better fit for villain in this movie than I think Jet Li is in the third one. The only problem is if you do that, then you can't do the CGI thing. He has to be able to like talk and
Yes, because this movie, I'll say two things about this movie. One, it is very much it should be called The Mummy again. It is the prototypical
well, it's The
sequel
Mummy
where
Returns.
yeah we're doing the first movie
The
again.
first movie returned.
The first movie returns again. That all being said, as far as those kinds of sequels go, I think this is one of the better ones.
I
Again,
would
it's
put
very
this in the
watchable. It's
same
very entertaining.
category. I would put like RoboCop 2 or to a lesser extent, even though I make fun of it, Ghostbusters 2, where it is a
Yeah.
sequel that is not as good as the first one, but if you just turn your brain off, it's a fun 2 hour watch.
Hmm.
And it is by default a top 5 mummy movie.
Yes. I do think Jonathan's reintroduction is perfect. Like
Yes.
he
No, I
is
love
exactly
this.
where he should be.
I love that they think this is Rick.
It looks just like you can't see that bracelet and that giant puffy sleeve. Yeah, because we also set up this guy as like a villain for Oded Fair's character Ardeth Bay. But I mean, like they do get the showdown together at the end. But beyond that, like this guy has way more screen time with Alex.
Yeah, no, he hates
they have
their
way more
arch
fighting.
enemies. It's awesome. So, but back to what we were saying about whether or not Emotep should have even been in this. I think if you have to have him, and the movie starts to get there, but then we shift at the last minute, is it should have been Rick having to team up with the first movie's villain to stop a new villain, which is the
Yes,
Scorpion King.
because
But they don't really do that.
it kind of does that sequel thing where we're bringing the original villain back, but we also have this new villain that's going to be more powerful and scary. But we don't see him until the end, and he's just a big CGI monster. Like he just taking the movie as it is, the Scorpion King never actually feels as powerful
Yeah,
as Imhotep did in
I
the first one.
love. Well, his power is the power of CGI. I love that he catches the snake and throws it back.
Yes.
No, Rick I
The,
think is the most consistent character, and Brandon Fraser just carries this movie on his back.
yeah. Yeah, this also does that sequel thing where the lady from the first one now gets to be more of a fighter. Like Pirates 2 does it.
I buy that though.
But yeah, no, I like it. I like that trope. Now, this whole fight in the mansion, I think, is really fun. And then Jonathan just hiding in the bathtub is a great choice.
Yeah, I like these like red robes that they've picked for the villains.
Yeah, they look cool. This is a movie that should have had like a dope toy line, and I don't know why
Yeah,
it didn't get that.
I don't know. It's a shame that it didn't.
I also never really got to play the video game tie-ins for these. We should cover those on the channel at some point.
I don't know if I want to play the first one. I've heard it is infamously bad. No, with your comparison to Pirates, if they had made a proper third one, I'm sorry, I don't count the third one as a proper third one. One person comes back, it doesn't count. Or is it two? Does Jonathan come back in that one?
Yes.
I kind of want a scene with Evelyn where she just like keeps removing weapons for like 20 minutes, like Keira Knightley in Pirates 3. I love just how done with Jonathan Rick is.
Tommy guns are always cool.
Yeah. Can we make like real period piece movies again in the genre?
I would like that.
That's my biggest complaint with the last two Mummy movies is I don't know why they have to be set in modern day.
Yeah.
Have you seen the Blumhouse one yet? Okay.
I'll get to it at some point.
Have fun.
So also again, just because there are so many villains and so much stuff going on, so one of our new villains, the cult leader, who we were talking about, the guy in Van Helsing. So we're told in exposition that like, oh, he's the new museum curator, and he's like behind all this. Like in a normal movie, you would introduce him with the good guys, and then it would be a twist for the audience of, oh shit, the new museum curator is the bad guy. He's like, but we just skip all that and just do it in exposition because there's so much going on.
Well, and it's funny too because if that's the case, Evelyn was going to replace him because she has that line about them begging her to take over for the museum.
Mm.
Also, I know that they live in England, but neither Rick is not English. It's really weird that his son sounds like a British 20-year-old.
He gets his accent from his mom.
Apparently.
But I do just love exploring this time period, and it's really expansive. All the locations and backlots and costumes, like all that stuff's really cool.
You know what it is? I just remembered. So in the because we were talking about how I don't think the Scorpion King lines up with this movie. In that movie, he is a lone warrior of like and it's like the last of his tribe or something. And at the end of the movie, like becomes king, and that does not line up with he was a
Well,
general who made a deal to command the armies of Anubis.
Yeah, but again, I think all that stuff has to take place before when we meet him in this. I mean, he's called the Scorpion King, so he's a king of something. I don't know.
I thought he got that name from his deal with Anubis because he eats the scorpion.
No, they're already into weird scorpion stuff.
Ew. I don't like the way you phrase that.
People were bored back then.
Honestly, I would watch a sequel if it just had Oded Fehr and Brandon Fraser's characters working together like a buddy cop comedy.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him back.
So you expect me to believe he just got this tattoo in an orphanage? Does that mean that, like, is he the only one that got it? Was this an orphanage that raised Medjai? What's funny too, because in Assassin's Creed Origins, the character you play as is a Medjai, and that's a little different. That's more, he's almost like a lawman, not like a warrior for God, but like a justice. I haven't been paying attention to the chat. Draven, that Blumhouse movie was just Evil Dead. It was Evil Dead Believer. Do you think by making this movie just the first one again negatively affects the third one? If they did something new for this one, could they have learned their lessons and made a good third one? Well, no. It doesn't matter what you do with the second movie. If you make a bad third one, you made a bad third one. Like,
yeah.
The only time that is the case, and I'm not gonna stick on this because the comments will crucify me, is something like the sequel trilogy, where 8 just completely implodes everything, so you don't have anything to build on. With the way these movies should work, all you have to do is just make another adventure movie with a compelling villain.
Yeah, well, this movie does set the precedent of, oh, we're just doing Imhotep again. We're just doing the first one again. So in the third one, it is weirder when we do something so different. But I think it's a shame that is. I don't think that should be the reputation of the third one. The lesson of the third one shouldn't be, oh, we tried something different and it was bad. We can't do that. It's like, no, the lesson should be from the third one is that they made a bad movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think attempting to explore a new villain in a new culture and doing something, like, I think those were good ideas on paper. It's just executed very poorly. And I think one of the first things that kills that movie is just when you have to recast Evelyn. At that point, I say just don't make the movie if you can't get Rachel Weisz back.
Yeah, because these movies live on Fraser, Wise, and whoever it is that plays Jonathan.
I do think CGI corpse Arnold Vosloo in this one looks really cool.
I love how we just kind of brush through his stages of evolution, just at some point.
Okay, another plot thing I have a question. For some reason, when they bring him back to life, he's like half evolved. Like, he has his eyes back, he has his tongue back, but then, as we'll see later, he needs those other victims to fully regenerate. But I don't know why he's like half regenerated already. I don't know. Don't think about it.
Later he can speak English. Somehow.
Yeah, for one scene. Alex, I think it is cool bringing Oxanu back. Now
try saying that 5 times fast.
Oxanamun. I just wish we explored more with this dynamic. I think what would have been cooler too is if. So we do the ritual later where she gets Oxanamun's soul back in her, but like she's still the same character. Like, there's not really a shift, so I guess it's just she just gets like all her memories back. I don't know. It would have been cooler if there was more of like a noticeable shift with like this lady versus when Oxanamun has her soul back in her body again. I think that was a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I also wish she felt like a character, not just a plot device. I don't know anything
Yeah,
about this person. I don't know like what she wants.
yeah. I have a lot of questions about where she comes from, how she met this cult, like how they know this. And this is like also a little contrived, where it's like, okay, we just have Evelyn kidnapped again, where we're kind of speed running through some of the big beats from the first one, but I also get it credit for getting this out of the way early. Like, okay, this is a first act plot
I
point.
do love
She's kidnapped to be rescued. Or
I
move on.
do love this time it's not we're gonna use her in like some ceremonies.
Yeah,
Just throw her into the fire.
yeah. Like, there's no plot reason for them kidnapping her. They could have just shown him her head on a silver platter. But
But we do get this cool stunt here in a second.
yeah,
Tyler, would you rather watch The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor or The Mummy 2026? Tomb of the fucking Dragon Emperor. At least there you get Brandon Fraser. I remember
something.
he's trying.
Yep.
But no, him jumping through the fire, that was awesome.
I also like the screen time we get with Jonathan and Alex. Like, that's a very good uncle nephew dynamic. I just wish we got more of them together. Because I
Yeah.
like that they're because he's as childish as Alex is.
What
Just
do you think
wants
it
to
might
get
have
the
been
fuck out.
better if we did expand this and the goal was to get Evelyn back again and you have the rest of them together for that dynamic?
It's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. It's like part of why we invent Alex is just to have a different character kidnapped we have to rescue the whole movie who isn't Evelyn again. Um, but the trade off is, yeah, you don't get that much of like Alex and Jonathan and
I
his
love
relationship with his
Emotep's
parents.
you the moment he sees Rick.
And we talked over it, but when Rick and uh Ardith Bay are like walking through the museum and like those mummies on display come to life, like that's a really cool, creepy moment.
Yeah.
It's great atmosphere. And then we get his henchman back.
Yeah.
Love to see it.
Rick's like, these guys again. I just love how done Rick is with mummies.
Yeah. Okay. So remember, title cards tell us last movie 1926, this one 1933. That means Alex should be 7 years old at the most, and he just said I'm 8 years old. I'm like, you can't be.
Hey, you never know. Maybe he was conceived before the first movie started. They they they
situation.
they had sex and then met later.
Yeah.
He is a creation of the mummies, like his father before him.
So I've never been to Britland myself, but it is entirely this movie and Prisoner of Azkaban that I know like what a double decker bus is.
Yes.
I'd like to ride one. It looks fun, and I
This
just see
might
that
be
as
my
like an
favorite.
exclusively British thing.
This might be my favorite set piece in the movie.
This is a great action sequence.
Rick, that's a shotgun. They're spider mummies. Although I do love later on when you get like spider, like mummy monkeys and all this other shit.
Yeah, yeah. Pygmies.
Yeah, those are scary.
See, like Jonathan gets something to do here. He drives the bus.
Yeah. No, this is a perfect action sequence. It just in how everybody has something to do. It's
Yeah,
all exciting. It's well shot. I can see what's happening. Oh God,
it's well choreographed.
I watched Quantum of Solace last night because I'm still on my Bond watch because I took a few days off. That has some of those incomprehensible action I've seen in a long time. That took me back to like right after Taken came out.
Yep, that was the era for it.
Tyler says maybe Rick isn't the real dad. He stepped up to the plate. I don't think so, Tim.
I reject your hypothesis. No, this action sequence is so good. I would almost swear like this was maybe something they wanted to do in the first one and they just couldn't afford and didn't have time for. Because
Yeah.
this feels like, fine, okay, we're doing it now.
Yeah, no, because I mean, not by like a wide margin, but I do think this is better than any of the other action in this movie.
Yeah. Again, it's always fun. Like it's always watchable.
Yeah.
But this is the best stuff.
I have that with what you're saying with buses. There's also a bus. I don't know the name of it, or not like a bus, but I think they have them in California and they're red and like have the open rooftops. Never seen one, but they're in movies all the time that take place in like San Francisco and
Mm-hmm. When in doubt, just punch a mummy.
it's true. We had a weird fascination with bus set pieces because this is just a couple of years after the Lost World, which also has a bus set piece.
Yeah, it's true.
And then I know it's because it's in the book, but like, and then a couple years after this, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban will have a bus set
Yep.
piece.
Yeah, and compared to
That's
Lost
fun.
World, yeah, that is fun. I'd say Lost World is probably better than this. Like just as a
I
full
like the
movie.
Lost World better than this. I don't care what anybody says.
Because the Lost World is whether you like that movie or not, that's one that comes up all the time as like a Ghostbusters 2 movie that just does the first one again. And I've always disagreed with
No,
that
that it
notion.
doesn't have anything to
Like
do with like the first one on a script like or like
I
a movie making. It doesn't repeat like anything.
it's like okay, like the big T-Rex set piece is in the middle, like the first one. Like
But
that's
even
kind
then,
of
it's a
it.
completely different set piece.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's the most superficial stuff where people are like, oh, you have the T-Rex scene and then you have the Velociraptor scene. It's like, are we just not allowed to use those dinosaurs again? Like, I feel like that's a very, very shallow way just to say, oh, it's just doing the first one again.
Yeesh. I've never understood what the rules, and I think that's part of why I give Ghostbusters 2 so much shit. Because a lot of our friends love that movie, but then we'll make fun of other sequels that are either doing the exact same thing where it's just the first movie again or something completely different. I'm like, but you love a movie that is just the. I'm sorry, Ghostbusters 2 is just the first movie. I don't care that has a different villain. Structurally, it is the same
It
movie.
is. And it does that thing I don't like where Bill Murray and Sigourney Weaver's characters are broken up so they can get back together.
And it's even worse in that one because she like breaks up with him, moves on, has a kid.
Yeah, there's a lot of movie that happened between those two movies just to get to that force setup.
Oh, okay. So I wanted to talk about this. So they stop, they're victorious. Alex walks to the front of the bus like it's on cue to get grabbed. It is the most staged thing in that set piece. How did that guy get there? How did he follow them?
He teleported.
Oh.
And again, I think these visual effects are cool whenever like we shift back and forth from present day to the Egyptian times.
And you're right, this CGI for Emotep is quite good.
Yeah. And then they kiss and you go, ew.
Yeah, I don't.
Because and I have some gripes with the ending. I feel like the movie wants to say something about Rick and Evelyn's relationship versus Emotep's and Oxana Moon, and there's not enough of it. It's like I want more. Like if that's the theme, if that's like the focus, is like these two loves and which love is stronger. I want the movie to be about that more.
Yeah, or even you could do like, because I with the Emotep thing always felt more like an obsession, like they were both obsessed with each other. Whereas you get Rick and Evelyn to a place where I believe they love each other, and you could have done like an obsession versus love thing, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about some heavy-handed metaphors when we get to Buffy. But I wish it was stronger here. Remember Egypt?
I do.
So, because I mentioned Assassin's Creed Origins, which takes place in Egypt, and he plays a Medjay. People love that game. I've realized that Egypt is like the worst place to set a video game. Not to sound like a meme, but sand. I hate sand. It's really boring as like an environment, and everything looks the same.
Well, there's not as much variety in terms of architecture.
Yes, everything in that game's fucking desert. Anakin was. What I'm saying is that Anakin was right about
Anakin did
everything.
nothing wrong.
I do like that. Lady, I don't behave for my parents. What makes you think I'm going to behave for you?
Soon you will join us, young Alex.
And I don't think the kid that plays Alex acts anymore.
Yeah, no, as far as I know, he's a fine kid actor. I think his performance in this is fine.
Freddie Boeth. Oh, he's a year older than I am. Oh, so I think we might have mentioned this in the first one, in the first commentary. But he was going to audition for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, but then chose to audition for this instead.
Oh,
Petty
should be like that.
either regrets that or is thankful for it if he didn't want to be like a didn't want to be a long term actor.
Okay, so remember how I said this movie's supposed to be set 7 years after the first one, but Alex is
Yes.
8 years old for some reason? Well, this guy just said the people who opened this chest 9 years ago. I'm like, this movie can't get its timeline straight.
Well, okay. Yes, but to give it the benefit of the doubt, it's wrong either way. But it could have still been 9 years from the time the chest was opened. But he wasn't conceived until like a year after the events of the first movie. It would still put the timeline off wrong when you put an actual year. But if you didn't put a year to it, I think that dialogue is fine.
Sure, I'll give you that.
I Why does he speak English for this one scene?
It's really weird, especially when the first movie doesn't do that. Because I don't think he's literally speaking English here. I think he says, "You understand me." So then he's just starts speaking English for the audience's benefit. But A, the first movie didn't need to do that, and B, this is the only time we do that,
Yeah,
so it sticks
that's
out.
why I think he's speaking English.
Yeah.
And if it's just to give Vosloo like dialogue in English, it doesn't do anything. I couldn't even tell you it was him. It's so like
Yeah,
muffled
it's so
and
modulated.
also. Can we talk about how insane this necklace or this amulet or bracelet is? So
Go for
you
it.
put it on, and then you have 7 days to follow those zoom images, or you die.
Seems legit.
What? Who
It's a ticking
invented
time bomb.
this?
I mean, I kind of like that as like a curse idea, where it's like, hey, if you're not up to snuff and can't get there, you're fucked. You're not worthy. There's something fun about that.
See, that's why I think he's speaking English. Like even with the mask off, like He's
It's just because he has that line where he's like, "I know you can understand me," and the camera like zooms in on his mouth, and then he switches. So I think cinematically that's what's going on there, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
yeah.
This place is cursed.
It's a death cuss.
So this setup is fun though. How they have to like trick these guys to getting cursed, so Tep can fully regenerate. Like this whole action scene with Emotep, I think is really fun.
I love that he's just like messing with him.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently he can't do that to just anybody. They have to open the chest and take the
Right.
thing. But what happens if just
Yeah.
one of them opens it? Because no one else touched it.
Well, I mean that's what happened. So I think you just have to. I don't know. They're in the vicinity. You just have to take the movie's word for it.
Okay.
But it is really cool though when you get that up close shot of Emotep sucking his soul out. The only part that doesn't look great is when we get that close up on Emotep's face, like half regenerated. That looks like a PS2 graphic.
Yeah. No, that's rough.
But the kill scene's pretty cool.
I will say I do think that is pretty good for its time. It's not like a Scorpion King situation where that was even bad at that time. That's just an effect that hasn't aged well. Because I remember as a kid, I thought that looked fine, but then Scorpion King was like, this looks like a video game character. Not in a good way. Here is what's the guy from the first movie, the pilot from the first one?
Winston.
Here's Winston again.
Yeah, well, it's that sequel thing of, well, we killed that character, so we have to invent a new character to replace them. But to their credit, I think Izzy's fine.
I do
And
laugh
he's
every time
different
he
enough.
talks about getting shot in the ass.
Yes. That's a good running joke.
He's in mourning for his ass.
And everyone just really wants that plastic scepter.
Yes. Well, plastic is very valuable in the 1930s.
That's true. And then it turns into an impossibly long spear that I don't think makes any sense.
Well, to be fair, they've already established it's a spear.
No, but I'm saying it's like impossibly long. I don't know how mechanically that works.
It's magic.
I do love his pet bird. That's a fun addition.
He wants his bird.
I want my bird. It is a miracle how well the first Iron Man holds together, given that that's like 75% improvised. And then you get to Iron Man 2, and it's like, oh, the seams are showing. There's a lot of improvised stuff in Iron Man 2 that doesn't
Iron Man 2 also becomes like a different movie halfway through.
Yes.
Travis says, how's it going? It's going good. We're watching and talking about The Mummy Returns. Welcome in. No, I love when Iron Man 2 just stops the entire movie for him to invent this new element that never comes up again.
Yeah. This is a good joke. Like, you're right. You are going to get shot. Don't go. Don't go in your CGI balloon. This is going to end bad.
So that pilot has been in a lot of stuff. Nothing that I recognize except a couple episodes of Doctor Who.
Oh. He's apparently English.
Yeesh. Says he was in the acclaimed. Where'd it go?
We lost it.
Yeah, what the fuck? Oh, the acclaimed Notes on a Scandal, but I've never heard of this. Directed by Richard Ayer. Travis says he saw Iron Man 2 super late and realized the Amazing Spider-Man 2 is so much of a remake of it, down to an angry Russian guy in a metal suit, blood disease, and lost videos from dead dads. They're thematically similar, yeah.
Oh, Travis also says he likes Amazing Spider-Man 2 better than Iron Man 2. I don't agree with that personally.
I might also. I don't know. Part of that's just I like Spider-Man more than Iron Man. They kind of both have the same flaws, really.
I definitely like watching the villains more in Iron Man 2 over Amazing Spider-Man 2. Say that.
Electro's growing on me in that movie. I don't like Goblin, but
fair. We talked over it, but I think that's the best joke with Jonathan in this movie, where he's talking about the scepter and he's like, "The gods couldn't take this from me," and then Rick just grabs it. That's
beautiful. Great.
Yeah, in most other movies, this would be like too annoying for an audience, but because he's annoying a villain, this stuff really works with Alex and this guy.
No, I love this stuff. Yeah.
I missed.
I missed. Electro's very underrated. I think the only thing that Electro's missing for that take, and it's not my preferred take on Electro because it's barely Electro. I do think you need that deleted scene with his mom to understand like where he's coming from, which is a problem that both of those movies have. It's astounding.
Yep.
This is disgusting, by the way.
Yeah, I don't like this bathroom. Which bathroom would you take? This one or the Saw bathroom? I'm not sure.
Oh.
I might take this one because I'm not sure how functional that toilet in the Saw bathroom is.
Yeah. But leave it to humans to decide the best way to get rid of their waste is just to open up the compartment and dump it all over the.
I mean, as opposed to, I mean, we used to just dump all our shit in the oceans, and then somebody started complaining about it. I don't know.
Oh. Travis, imagine they end Mummy 4 with Evelyn and someone important is taken to the underworld, and then Rick has to team up with the Scorpion King to get her back. Oh my god.
Only if it's CGI Scorpion.
Only if, as just as Rick is about to give all hope, terrible CGI portals open up behind him, and PS2 Scorpion King from this movie, and Tom Cruise, and the Mummy Girl from this new Mummy movie walk up. What are we, some kind of Mummy Squad?
So
no. What are we, some kind of Monster Squad?
That's a different movie.
Oh.
I have a question about Emotep's powers in this. He didn't have. Did he have like straight up telekinesis in the first one?
No, like the biggest thing he does is make that sand face.
Yeah, like he can turn into sand. Like we know he can do. We know he can do sand stuff.
Is this shit? I don't like the way that sounds. Is that just an excuse to do the water bit later?
Yeah, I mean, like I do think the shot is cool when he lifts up Alex, but then also like that doesn't really go anywhere. Like his telekinesis, like because then that's taken away from him in the climax. So it's not like we see him do a lot of cool shit. That stood out to me on my rewatch where I'm like, wait a minute, I don't think he had like telekinesis in the first one.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, he did have like the mind control powers, I think. So I mean, I guess it's not a. It's not. I thought it was him that turned all those people into like a mindless horde.
Yeah. Okay. That's its own can of worms because yeah, that's kind of a thing he does in one scene, but we're also acting like that's just one of the plagues because they're like, oh, they have boils and sores. Like
what I'm saying is he can do whatever the hell the movie wants him to do in any given scene.
Yes. I will say this scene is really cool. Since we just did a commentary on the 30s movie, this is a cool place where we're lifting a scene from that with him and Oxnamun with this pool that they're gonna look into.
Yeah.
To like see the past. Like that shot is lifted directly from the 30s one. So it is cool that we're still going back to that original movie for inspiration. And then here we have your favorite scene of Egyptian Evelyn.
It is hilarious.
Hey man, I think she looks good in that outfit. I'm not complaining. I'm not as outraged as you are.
You should be. It's an outrage.
Yeah, so like remember all this stuff that wasn't in the first movie?
Travis wants to know what's something you would want to see done in 4. They haven't touched Aztec or Mayan stuff yet.
Yeah. I guarantee it's gonna be something Egyptian. Like 1000%. It's whether it's Emotep again or not, we're definitely going back to Egypt for the next one.
I don't really at this point, because we have so little information, and I'm not a history nerd. Like I like these movies because they're fun adventure movies, not because I'm a mythology nut. At this point, all I'm wishing for is just a good movie.
Sure, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Well, and like I've said before, as much as I would like to see
what is this fight choreograph? Like why are they just just walking at each other, spinning their weapons? What is this? The prequels?
Yeah, it's that scene with Anakin and Obi-Wan.
That scene's hilarious.
Nefertiti. But yeah, and like I said, I love Arnold Vosloo. I'd like to see him again in things. But I I don't think you should bring him back just because we already did this movie. Like, we already did the movie where it's Emotep again.
Yeah,
I
but
don't need that
remember the
for a
the
Legacy sequel.
these soft reboot legacy sequels always ignore everything except the first one.
Yeah.
I personally can't wait to see 65-year-old Emotep, but
But like Ghostbusters Afterlife, we do Gozer again. That's the formula. And I do remember when The Mummy 4, like this is before the Tom Cruise one, like that was in development hell for years and years. And yeah, I do remember them talking about like spitballing ideas like Mayan, Aztecs, like different cultures they could explore, because 3, that was supposed to be the formula from 3 on, was doing new mummies with different cultures, and but 3 failed, so we're not doing that ever again. And I think that's a shame, because I think that could be cool. It just wasn't done well.
yeah.
And like we talked about last time with Van Helsing, I like Van Helsing. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. But again, another thing we could have done instead of this movie is just Rick O'Connell and Evie versus Dracula. Like have them go up against different Universal monsters. That could have been cool.
Yeah. So this is a little goofy that she's literally moving in both realities or dream.
I think it's fine. She's just
I love how
remembering.
gold ancient Egypt is.
They like their gold. Also, geography wise, I have to rewatch that scene again from the first one. I just got the impression that was like an interior. I didn't. I never got the impression that like if you were on a balcony in a different building, you could see what was going on in there when they killed a pharaoh. That was never the impression I got watching that scene in the first one.
No.
Travis says the windmill scene between Johnny Cage and Baraka in the new Mortal Kombat almost outdoes the spinning of the prequels. I need to see it. I've not seen the new Mortal Kombat yet. Hong Sunamun. But it's your question. I don't know. I like that gag when Evie just jumps over the side.
That is kind of funny.
Grab her.
The sacred texts.
Yeah. So, like I said, if we could just flesh it out more, I think the reincarnation stuff with Evie is fine. It's just the Rick O'Connell stuff is so half-assed, where it's like, oh, you're a warrior, uh, predestined. I don't know. It's fate. It's destiny. Don't think about it. It's just too much. It doesn't need it. It would have been better if we could have just seen Brendan Fraser as a magi in Egyptian times.
Yes.
They didn't have the balls to do it.
No, yeah, they didn't.
We were robbed. This guy just really wants to kill this kid. Travis says timeline wise, the next movie would be during the Vietnam War. Is that true? When do we get involved with Vietnam? Because I would think you'd set the next one in the 50s.
So,
Um,
hang on. I'm gonna look that up, but here's my problem with saying that. They haven't announced anything other than just the cast
Yeah,
is coming back.
yeah, we hardly know anything. But Travis was just suggesting they should bring in Ke Huy Quan as a new character. I'd love that. He'd be great.
The Vietnam War officially began on November 1st, 1955.
Okay.
So, like, yeah, you could. It's just they haven't announced anything. We don't even know how long after the last movie this takes place. What if everything is still canon?
But to his suggestion, Ke Huy Quan, who's short round in Indiana Jones and in Everything Everywhere All at Once. We never brought him back in the Indiana Jones movies for some stupid reason. I'm still upset about it. So sure, put him in a Mummy movie. That's fine. I'd love to see him.
It'd be hilarious if The Mummy 4 is the best Indiana Jones movie since
Since 3.
yeah. Although I guess you kind of have that with the first Mummy movie. It is the best
Yeah.
Indiana Jones movie since the third movie.
Yeah. To credit, I'm glad we shot all this stuff with the real eagle. Because if they attempted a CGI bird for these scenes, it would have looked bad. So I gotta give credit where credit's due whenever we do something in camera.
Travis says it's a theatrical timeline, assuming they keep it in real time. That's fair. So that could be. I didn't think about that.
We just don't generally think of like the U.S. getting like really involved in Vietnam until the '60s. So I don't know. I don't think they need to touch that, but we'll see.
Robert, they're British.
No, Rick's American.
They live in Britain.
He's an American who lives in Britland. It's different. Those scenes almost feel like studio notes, where it's like, oh, we don't have enough scenes of them like missing their child. We should put in a couple more in post.
Yes.
But yeah, the CGI water scene is just it's the first movie, but with water. I don't even think it looks terrible. Like I don't know. I think the scene is fun enough.
I think the water looks terrible.
It's ambitious for its time.
Yes. I just wouldn't have done this. It doesn't look real.
You're not real, man.
I wish. Travis, Cobra Kai did take Karate Kid 3, one of the worst sequels ever, and instead of ignoring it, used it to build a great show. I imagine they'll acknowledge the third movie here.
Those are okay.
That's
there's a lot to unpack there.
That's the exception to the rule, though. Especially in the horror genre, what we always do is we go back to the first movie.
Well, and
yeah, like that face. That's scary. I don't like it.
And what I'll say with Cobra Kai, it's not like that show is immediately building off of Karate Kid 3. We do that stuff later.
I haven't seen the show or any of the Karate Kid movies. I have no opinion.
Oh, the first one's great. But like what I've seen of Cobra Kai, will give that show massive props for just saying it's all canon. We're not retconning any of the movies. We're not picking and choosing. I will give Cobra Kai mad props for just committing and saying no, all the movies are canon,
It's all canon,
which
Bobby.
you rarely see. Now, in the case of The Mummy, to John's point, that's not the legacy sequel formula. And B, I could be wrong on this, but I do believe like one of the first things we hear about this new movie from like Brendan Fraser or whoever, maybe it was the director saying we're making like the I swear I heard somebody say we're making the real sequel to the first two. That was the quote I heard. That could be incorrect, that could be conjecture, but I do believe one of the first things we heard about this new movie was implying that yeah, we're ignoring 3. So I I don't think they need to retcon 3. Like I don't think they need to go as far as to say 3 never happened. But if there are references to it, it's gonna be I think it's gonna be very minimal. Like they are primarily gonna be looking at the first 2. I mean, and that was just the vibe we got once they said that Rachel Weisz was coming back. Like just her coming back, like gave this implication. That,
Robert, it's getting closer.
3. Oh dear God, it's getting bigger.
Oh dear God.
Because, like, if the hypothetically, I think we'll know they're retconning 3 if they did something like saying that Alex dies in World War II. That would be something egregious enough to say, yeah, we're retconning 3 and are clearly ignoring that. I'm not saying I want them to do that or that they need to do that, but it's a theory.
What if they just remake The Mummy 3?
With Rachel Weisz. That's fine. I mean, that's fine because Brendan Fraser now is like more age appropriate for Rick in that movie than he was in 2008. But so I will just turn that into a question for you. What do you think they should do with Alex in the next one?
Honestly, I'd like to see just the 3 of them on an adventure together. Like maybe he's an adventurer and then has to like get his parents involved because he's in over his head or something. I wanted to buck the trend where all the characters are old and miserable and want to die. Just give me a happy family dynamic.
Yeah. And presumably we just recast again.
No, bully him until he comes out of retirement. Travis, I think ignoring sequels is only a thing when there are multiple timelines, like Halloween. But
it's a case by case basis. Halloween is a very specific case where you do have we reset and reboot several times. But what I think John is talking about more with legacy sequels is like we're just going back to the plot and story of the first one. It doesn't necessarily mean you're retconning sequels. Again, it's a case by case basis.
Well, even like something like Scream, by the time you get to Scream 5, which is yet another requel parody, the only thing it references really is the first movie. It's obsessed with the first movie, and that's not a multiple timeline franchise. When we soft rebooted Star Wars with the Force Awakens, it is obsessed with A New Hope.
Yes. Yeah, and the sequel trilogy at the time was not like it was not retconning the prequels. It was not saying that they never happened. They just ignored them as much as they could.
No, if anything, it just retcons out of existence like the old Legends canon, but only nerds like me cared about that. Tyler, would you rather watch this or the 32 movie? This. I don't know. The 32 movie's fine. It exists.
Yeah.
And here's like a Lost World setup. They're like lost in the jungle.
I was gonna say that the scene is very Lost World. That's why I thought of it earlier. But yeah, these little pygmy guys are fun. They creeped me out when I was a kid.
Don't go into the long grass.
And like I said last time, like Jurassic Park and The Mummy, like the 90s movies are just kind of forever linked in my mind because this is the era of those DVD Universal Studios intros where it's just a footage of a bunch of their movies, and it's primarily Jurassic Park and The Mummy. So those two franchises are just kind of in sync in my mind forever because of that. And they're coming out around the same time. Yeah, and Travis says they don't want to step into Indiana Jones 5 territory. I mean, that's why I posed that as a hypothetical, just because that's what Indiana Jones 5 did. I'm not saying that's not like
I
they could still do that.
yeah. Is it weird that I would be more okay with it in a Mummy movie than an Indiana Jones movie?
I don't want it. Well, it depends on the story you tell with it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to see
Because I think
Rick and Evelyn
the problem
split
with
up.
an Indiana Jones is it was an excuse to get rid of Shia LaBeouf's character and
Yes.
Marion again, and to make
Yeah.
Indiana Jones miserable, and just the movie wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I have this with 4 and 5. I think aliens and time travel are too much for the Indiana Jones universe.
What I'm worried about more with the next movie, it has less to do with what we do with Alex and more just I just don't want Rick and Evie split up at the start of the
Yeah.
movie. And I think one of your go-to places for facilitating that is what if their son died between movies? And that's how you get him miserable and alone. And they're like that's how you facilitate that.
Yes. Don't do that.
And I don't want that. No, and John, this is just the long grass scene in the Lost World to the point where the guys are getting pulled down.
Yeah.
Like it's the same
This
shot.
makes me want to watch The Lost World.
Yeah.
I'd give this
So
probably
do I.
about the same score on Letterboxd, like 3.5.
Yeah. Like I said, I think The Lost World is probably a better movie than this, but in terms of what I'd rather rewatch, like, depends on the mood I'm in. I've certainly rewatched The Lost World more than this at this point. Yeah, exactly, Travis. Like the sequels are such a weird time capsule now, and just how much they ignore the prequels and how those weren't in at the time, and now Disney's trying to cash in on prequel nostalgia as much as
Because
possible.
because people saw the prequels or the sequels, and people like my age, I can't speak for you, Robert, but my age were like, oh wait, no, the prequels were good actually, and Disney's like, cha-ching.
But did you finish the mall show or did you drop off?
Yeah, no, that show has gotten me like in Star Wars brain rot. It's a problem. I was
liked the
out.
finale a lot.
I was out. Damn you,
No,
Dave Filoni.
I think the finale of Mall did you
No,
really
that show
proud.
was incredible. I loved every second of it. Now I'm reading Darth Plagueis, so you know.
Ooh.
Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? There's a 300-page book about it.
Travis just said with modern franchises, audiences kind of expect all the characters to come back, whereas back in the day, that usually didn't happen, which sucked. And I think there's pros and cons to both approaches. Like
What?
I've seen good and bad examples of both.
Yeah, I think my problem with that is in a lot of franchises, slashers notwithstanding, because you have to keep recasting in those. But like I'm thinking of Indiana Jones. At least when I was a kid and I watched Raiders and then Temple of Doom, I was like, well, where's everyone from from Raiders? A lot of times it can feel like a bit of a downgrade.
Yeah. Well, and I think there were a lot of franchises like Batman James Bond, where your hero comes back, but the villain's always different. And I mean, in the case of Batman and James Bond, like the love interests are always different, which again, like there's good
Well,
and
and
bad
you can, I
examples
think
of
you can
that.
get away with that more in Bond because Bond, there's not really a connective tissue. It's just another adventure, which
Yeah,
sometimes they may reference later on, they may not.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
never
yeah, yeah.
know.
It was a different time, man. But I think to Travis's point, where you can see a real evolution in how Hollywood is treating these properties for good or ill, is you look at the first Jurassic World, which made $1 billion, and all that movie cares about is the dinosaurs. Like, there's no returning characters from the old movies. It is a new, fresh cast. And then fast forward to Dominion, where okay, now we're
We
cashing in on
have
nostalgia and getting
we've confused Sam Neill arguing with the barista for like 20 minutes.
Witch's Peak.
It's the best scene in that movie.
Yeah. Because like the Jurassic Park trilogy was like this weird middle ground where you'd get some returning characters, but not all of them.
They
Which
alternated.
they alternated, and then by the time you get to Dominion, it's like okay, now we're bringing back the original trio because that's what's in right now. Uh, do you think we go a little too cartoony with these little pygmy guys? Because they do
I
turn into Looney Tunes characters after a while.
and this isn't maybe not the movie's fault, just this is the way my brain is. I'm wondering what are these things? Are they supposed to be
I
literally
don't know.
mummy pygmies? I I don't know. I
They're
like them,
scary.
they're fun, but at the same time I'm like, is that too far?
And again, we'll see how the new movie turns out. But like with the Mummy 2017, that was another example of yeah, we're not bringing back those characters or that cast, but we are clearly cashing in on that look, that type of action spectacle. And it's like, oh, we're just selling this on the Mummy. Like we don't need Brendan Fraser or anybody back. And now they're like, just kidding. Nah, we're gonna try it again with the original casts. So we'll see how it goes. And I do think this scene is pretty fun, where Alex is like, "No, we need to get in that temple, or else I'm gonna die." But yeah, I mean, I would say even this movie, I'd say is better than both Crystal Skull and Dial of Destiny.
Fucking mile. And I'm not even like a big Indiana Jones fan, and those are
Hmm.
uh Crystal Skull's like watchable.
There's good stuff in it. I don't hate
I
that
I found the fifth movie to be unwatchable.
movie. This is so mean. I love when Jonathan runs into this other guy and he's like, "Oh no, we're good, we're safe," and then get that guy killed. It's so mean.
No, that's cool. I think the movie could have
Uh,
used more of this if you're gonna go full like goofy shit. More like little creatures running around trying to kill him.
mhm.
What I'm saying
Well,
is,
it's
I want a
something
mummy
different.
gorilla because that would be cool.
Yes. I mean, speaking of which, like this is just a log from Skull
Yes,
Island.
well, from King Kong in general. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and Steven Summers clearly likes these little guys just because he makes very similar looking enemies in Van Helsing.
This was his audition tape for Van Helsing.
Mhm. Yeah, like his trajectory with Universal in this era is just so weird. Where you get the Mummy Returns, where it's like they hire him like, okay, we want you to do that movie again, and then he does it, and then it's like, okay, now we're doing Van Helsing, and do for all the other monsters what you did for the Mummy, and it was a tall order.
And I like that movie. It's flawed, but
Yeah,
I'd put it on maybe slightly above this.
yeah, I'd have to think about that. They have different problems.
Yes. It's Brandon Fraser's dying. Like, it's not. Bale would later imitate this at the end of The Dark Knight, where he can't breathe but has to deliver dialogue.
Can't be Justin.
That's my favorite like line delivery in the back half of The Dark Knight is when he's like trying to deliver his lines to Joker. This city just proved.
Just tell people.
Bale, breathe.
So, remember how I gave the first act credit, where it's like, okay, we're kind of speed running through some of the major beats of the first one, where Evie gets captured and we have to rescue her. We get that out of the way in like the first 20 minutes. Then we get to the third act, and then we kill her so that we can split up these characters and bring her back to life. And is this necessary?
No. Oh, okay. Yes. But only because I think they wrote themselves into a corner. Fraser has already gotten what he wants. His son is free of the curse. You need from reason for him to go stop Imhotep. Well, what do? Well,
Yeah.
Evie's dead. So yes, this is necessary, but only because they wrote themselves into a corner and took the easiest way out.
Yeah, and it's such a like brief detour.
We have a super
thanks,
chat
Travis.
from Travis, $9.99. Great stream, guys. Just subscribe. Thanks, man. We
thank you.
We do this every Friday, and then we do games on Sundays and Wednesdays/Thursdays.
But I think to its credit, I think Brendan Fraser is really good in this scene.
No, he carries this movie.
It just in the moment it feels so out of nowhere and kind of unearned. Like it just feels, and then
Honestly,
afterwards it feels kind of cheap just because it's like, well, we killed her for 5 minutes and then bring her back, so it's very inconsequential.
Yeah. Honestly, because like I said, I'm pretty sure that's why they do it because they need Rick to get there. But I don't think you need to do that. Like he'd already want to stop them from destroying the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and
what happens is this guy is fucked.
Yes, it's awesome. It's a little muddled because it's like, all right, so the Scorpion King is a big bad, and him coming back is bad, but Imhotep wants to kill him so he can rule the world, which is also bad. And
it's all bad.
It's all bad. And like you said, I feel like there is another version of this movie where we bring Imhotep back, and then there's like a reluctant team up to defeat the Scorpion King, like a common enemy. I might have preferred that if we went with that trope.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we also make a really big deal about Imhotep like slowly getting his powers back over the course of the movie, including ones we didn't see him use in the first one. And then we get to this temple and he's like, "Oh, my powers are gone."
Which I think could work. Like he came in as overly confident, like, "Oh, I'm just gonna use my superpowers," and then plot twist is that they take them. But it doesn't feel like that matters in the long run because
no.
I think you need to make it so that he and Rick team up at the end because Imhotep has lost his powers for that to matter.
Mm.
But instead, Imhotep says, "I wasn't trying to kill you," which is a really funny scene. He's trying to kill you.
That is a funny scene. I just don't love seeing Imhotep like whiz out like that.
No, it's really dumb. the only one that thinks this, but I think Dominion would have been better if you replaced Dodson with Vince Vaughn from The Lost World. I mean, anything would have been better than what we got. That would have been funny.
It would have been funny if he is like it taking your comment, like if taking Vince Vaughn's character and making him the big bad of Dominion.
I would have loved that. You're
I
in the
watched
place
that.
where the geese chase you. No, you are.
Yeah.
Because the thing with Lost with Dominion that kind of sucks is no fault of their own, but apparently like the original Dotson actor is like a sex pervert or something.
Yes, so they had to recast.
So they had to recast. So it doesn't matter that it's Dotson because it's just some
Yeah.
guy. It's Rick. Isn't that Richard Parker in that movie?
Yes. Yeah. And he's like also evil Steve Jobs in that movie for some reason.
I didn't even like making the Asian guy from the first one. Like we kind of toy with he's the bad guy in the first two, and I didn't like that.
I mean, it's cool that they brought him back because yeah, he's like the one returning cast member
Yeah.
from the first movie. But then, so yeah, we make him a bad guy, but then we backtrack and give him a redemption arc in Dominion that's like really unearned.
Yeah. No, I didn't like him being the bad guy. Like, because in the first movie, he's just a scientist,
Yeah, he's just a guy.
just a guy. We need more people that are just guys in movies. We've got Uma Scars. I hope I said that right. Just join. Love what you're doing. Hey, thanks. Welcome in. We're glad to see you.
Thank you. And once again, all these sets are really cool. I'm a sucker for this aesthetic.
Oh God, that just makes me uncomfortable. Hand.
Oh yeah.
No, you won't know what would have been cool. You couldn't do this because he's already dead. But if we brought Newman back and made him the villain, that would have been awesome.
Or his twin brother.
Yeah, his twin brother. My brother died on that island. I'm gonna prove it with locusts. What?
But back to Travis's comment about Vince Vaughn. That is something I've changed my mind on, like as an adult, going back to the Lost World, that I didn't have when I was a kid. Is I'm like, oh, Vince Vaughn's character is like he doesn't deserve to survive that movie.
No, I
should've
do think that
died.
movie should have had a higher body count.
Yeah.
Although that does have my favorite death, running out of the waterfall because a snake is on you into the mouth of a T-Rex.
Snakes are scary.
It's true. But no, I do wish we'd found a way to pull Newman back in. I can't remember his name in the actual
Wayne
movie.
Knight.
Wayne Knight. In that, just so that he could do the Dotson. We got Dotson here. See, no, nobody cares. Oh my God.
And I think part of my issue with this climax is like we very quickly kind of lose the tension with Evie dying, where it's like, oh, she'll be back, she'll be fine. Like that.
This kind of feel like the climax. I feel like should have been the race to that temple to save Alex. This feels like
Yeah.
a tacked on epilogue.
Hmm. Whoa.
Vince Vaughn does so many dumb things in Lost World to put people in danger, and then mysteriously disappears when the T-Rex raises hell and make Malcolm's arc stronger.
You're not wrong. Everything
Yeah.
you're saying is true.
I looked it up, and everything you just said is 100% true.
And now they just look like they're in a Mortal Kombat arena.
Yeesh. The tie-in game for this should have just been a Mortal Kombat ripoff.
Yeah, it should have been a fighting game.
Rick is even moving like a fighting game character. Dennis Nedry, his name is supposed to be an anagram. Oh yes, Dennis Nedry, of course.
Alex, these Anubis army, like they look pretty good.
Yeah. No, the scope of this third act, even though this like feels tacked on, is insane.
Hmm.
Especially for 2001.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I mean, I always forget that even this movie, like this, technically predates Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
and this has that scale to it.
2001 was a cool year because you got this Harry Potter and
I
what?
just, just 2001 was a cool year. Needs to
Yeah.
be clipped out of context.
Oh no, no, no. God damn it. Oh. Well, I'm never living that one down.
And Jurassic Park 3, I think that
Jurassic Park
was
3.
2001.
But for like big blockbusters, you had this Harry Potter, Lord.
Hmm.
Is this Fellowship? Is
Yeah,
2001?
I believe Harry Potter was November '01, and then
It
Fellowship
was.
was December.
No, because I remember I was insanely excited for Harry Potter. I didn't give a fuck about Lord of the Rings, but don't read from the book.
Honestly, like Rick versus Emotep is fun. Like all of this action is awesome, and then it just goes downhill once the Scorpion King shows up.
Yeah, because what do you do? He's like a giant CGI blob.
Yeah, he should have just been The Rock.
Yeah,
Like,
you have this. This is what I will never understand. You have The Rock, one of the
yeah,
best to ever step into a professional wrestling circle. He is a stuntman and an actor in one, and you don't
yep.
let him deliver any real dialogue or literally be on screen. You CGI over him. What are we doing?
In hindsight, mistakes were made.
Yes, I think even Frasier kind of made fun of the CGI like years later. Not like a
Oh yeah,
disrespectful
definitely.
Taika Waititi way. More of just,
No,
yeah, that
well,
was rough.
everyone has or should have this understanding that look, they were out of time and they were out of money and they had to hit a release date, and then
Yes.
this happens.
Well, that's
Unfortunately, this has become the norm. Like that's the thing. In 2001, like this was a lapping stock, and now it's just the norm. Like we just expect it now.
and like that's basically what he said. It wasn't so much like throwing the effects artists under the bus. It was just, yeah, we were out of time, we were out of money, we had a release date to hit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ken also loses an eye like Nedry, and he was brought back for his sequel. There's hope yet, except Kano ends up being kind of a hero. I don't know who Kano is.
Oh, he's talking about Mortal Kombat.
Oh, don't spoil the new one yet, please. Jurassic Park 3 may be more enjoyable than Lost World for me. I do love Jurassic Park 3, but I am a Lost World defender. That's my second favorite Jurassic Park film. We still have to do 3 on the channel though.
We do.
And something
It's
that
just
is weird too is the way this is structured. So we set up Alex and Emotep, and then like 5 minutes later we bring back Evie to set up her fight, and now we're
yeah.
sending Jonathan and them off. And that, if I remember correctly, they're gonna fight like the minions. We're like staggering the action set pieces, and I don't know. I don't think you should do
Yeah.
that.
Well, we have a lot of characters. We're trying to give everybody something to do. And again, like by the time we're here, it's like, yeah, all I really care about is Rick versus Emotep. And then just it's just a perfect storm of just the way the scene is shot, the build up, like, oh, there he
And there he
is.
is.
And you're like, oh.
It's like, yeah. No, because that is
I
really
mean,
cool build up. Like it's all in shadows, and he's like walking out, and then, oh, oh no, because that's something that I think people need to understand. If you don't have the historical perspective, this wasn't even good in 2001.
right.
I have to change my headset battery. I'm not gonna be able to hear you for a second.
Oh no.
Oh my god. Do something. Stop just standing there.
I do like this fight with Evie and Oxynomon. I think it's fun.
I know she's the wrong nationality, but like we didn't care in 2001. Rachel Weisz wouldn't have been a bad Elektra.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think Jennifer Garner's fine in that movie, but Rachel Weisz probably would have been better.
I think she's
Casting for
fine
that.
in that. I just think Rachel Weisz is a better actress.
Yeah.
And nothing could save that Elektra movie.
No.
I've seen that movie way too many times. I had that on VHS tape.
It is fun. Look, this movie has a lot of villains, and they all need to get their comeuppance. So I forgot what happened to this guy. It is really funny when the Scorpion King just rips him apart for no reason.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Is like you're supposed to best him to take the armies of Olympus or of Olympus, Anubis, but he's just like a mindless animal in this.
Yeah, but and again, that's part of the problem with the scale and when everything is like this villain is more powerful than this villain, and like yeah, the army is cool, but is it anything that more impressive than I don't know raining down the plagues in the first movie? Like there's nothing we get that's as
Yeah.
impressive as what Emotep could already do
Yeah.
in the first one.
Which is why I would think stripping him of his powers would lead to an Emotep and Rick team up, because it's not that the Scorpion King is more powerful; it's that Emotep has become powerless. But can't have that.
That is a good reveal, though, of thinking that they killed all of them, and then there's thousands more coming.
You fool! They're CGI creations. We could just keep hitting Control V.
And this scene with Rick is really awkward because this is the payoff for his character, and it's like he's literally just seeing the script written on the wall.
Yes.
Like, oh, that's what happens. Okay,
that is kind of the problem with here, like Egyptian mythology, because a lot of it is written in pictures, so it just kind of spells it out for you.
Yeah. I think the reveal.
I do like this. It's a
is fun.
spear. It's a spear.
Yeah, just do the spear thing. You don't need Rick to be a magi
Yeah.
descendant or reincarnated individual.
I love Brendan Fraser, dude. Like,
He's so good. I miss him. Glad he's back.
I might have to watch George the Jungle, and just like out of curiosity. It may not hold up. I might still like it.
I never saw Encino Man. I missed that.
I saw that once when I was a kid. From what I remember, Brendan Fraser is good. The problem is Pauly Shore is really fucking annoying. Yeah, I do think this is, like you've said this before, but this is kind of where we're getting to the snake eating its own tails. There are so many different subplots going on. None of them are breathing. I think Evie and the girl have been standing there for like 20 minutes just looking at each other.
I do like this gag with Jonathan where he throws the spear and then Emotep catches it.
That's good.
No. And then I think the single funniest shot in the movie is when Rick kills the Scorpion King, and then Emotep just runs into frame and screams, "No!"
I love Emotep. He's one of the most like memeable villains of all time. that
Yeah.
also still has presence. He's scary in that first movie.
Hmm? No.
Oh god, the frame rate.
Whoa.
The CPU's been taken up by the rock. It can't display the frames correctly. So this is another movie logic thing. He beats the Scorpion King, which should give him access to his army, but instead they just disappear.
Well, he's I, apparently he just knows how to do this. He sends them back to the underworld. Like that's
Oh.
what happens. But
Tyler says they should have
sure,
done a proper Anubis movie. What do you mean a proper Anubis movie? Like about the
like
Egyptian god?
like a musical.
Oh.
And then and then we get CGI rock face one more time
Stop it.
as a cloud.
That looks like a Pink Floyd album cover. That might actually be a Pink Floyd album cover.
So, how do you feel about the choice to have Ankh Moon abandon Emotep and run away?
Is it properly her? I've never been sure.
What do you mean?
Is it actually
Like,
did they get her soul back now and it's
yes, they've already done that. So it is
I'm
her soul back in that body.
if they went all the way with this is an obsession between these two, not a love, I think it's okay. But because all we really get is how he feels, which is he's in love with her. I guess.
Yeah, it almost feels like the idea that all she really cares about is killing the Scorpion King and ruling the world, and once that's off the table, she's out. But she's just not a fleshed out enough character for me to know that's what's
Because
going
this is
on.
another scene where it feels like it's paralleling. She leaves,
Yes.
but Evelyn stays because she's not going to leave Rick behind. And like there's a cool
Yeah.
visual parallel there, but I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
getting out of it.
I just don't like. I think that choice could work. I just don't think the movie earns it. That's my
Yeah.
problem with it. I'm such a sap. I would have how I would have gone about this climax. I would have had Evelyn like mortally wound Ankh Moon, and maybe you could also have Emotep injured during this fight. I would have preferred just seeing Emotep and Ankh Moon just stay behind and just let themselves die together and fall into it. Because I like this bit. I like this bit with him when
I
he just
love his
drops
acting here.
and
Yeah,
it's great.
I see. That's fine. It's a little. That's the little too cliche. I think for me, I would have just doubled down on this parallel between them and really explored those two different
Hmm.
dynamics. But she's in this movie
Yeah.
so little because there's 700 other things to do.
There's a lot of villains, and I think the actress didn't like it. I heard that she really didn't like that choice that she leaves him.
Okay.
So like I said, I think that could have worked. I just don't think the movie earns it. Like
I
you
like her
said, I
death
just need the
here.
movie to be more about that. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, and stuff like that happens. Like I don't know if you know this, but at some point in Friends, there was a script where Chandler cheats on Monica, and Matthew Perry
Oh,
said,
okay.
"No, I'm not doing that."
Yeah.
Chandler wouldn't do that.
Good.
I don't know why that's the thing that we have to go to, but
Well, and that would have been such a mistake too, because that would have already been after the Ross and Rachel
you know,
break fiasco. That would have been bad. Like
yep.
that would have been a black eye on that show. Like, oh yeah,
Because
that's
they're
totally
like
it.
the best relationship in that show. Don't ruin it.
Yeah, yeah. And this climax sure is something we're
It
trying.
is. Jared's in the chat. Hey, how's it going? Did anyone
Hey.
else play the Mummy video games and watch the cartoon? Thank you for doing a request. No problem. Thanks for requesting this.
Thank you.
I saw a little bit of the cartoon when I was a kid, but I have not played the games. We've talked about doing them on the channel, but I've heard that first game is bad, and I don't know. Did Mummy Returns get a game too?
I think I'm pretty sure I can double check this. Tomb of the Dragon Emperor definitely did. I think all three of these movies had
Oh, it
playing
did.
games.
Yeah, PS2 game.
Yeah, it says it got 2 games, a Game Boy one and a PS2 one. They were both poorly received.
Yay! The Mummy Tomb of the Dragon Emperor got a video game also on the PS2. God damn.
And that would have been late PS2.
Yeah. Because the PS that's after the PS3.
Yeah.
So they just didn't do like a
by then.
current gen version. They were just like, nah, just slap it on the PS2. We're not putting any
It's
effort
fine.
into it.
But good for this guy, Izzy. At least he didn't get shot.
At least he didn't
I'm
get
with Rick on this one.
eaten by the sand. Scorpion King also got a game. I knew about that one, but I've never played it.
Oh.
Unfortunately, Scorpion King, I am putting my foot down. That does not count. There's nothing horror about those. Those are action movies. So we will not be covering those.
I think we'd cover it if it was ever requested, though.
I think that'd be the exception I'd make, because that is really pushing it for what horror is. I do kind of want to watch the Scorpion King now to see if it holds up.
I've never seen it. I need to see it.
Watch it and then watch all 700 direct-to-DVD sequels. Do your Scorpion King ranking. I love these shots of the sand.
It is always weird going back to this movie where it's like, oh yeah, this is the last time we ever saw Rachel Weisz as this character. It's really weird.
Yes. I mean, it's the last time we saw Brendan Fraser as this character too. Oh.
This final green screen shot is also not great.
Yeah.
When we see the balloon like flying toward the sun and like Alex is like superimposed on there, it's like, oh, woof.
Yeah, that's rough.
I do like the score in this movie. They did not bring Jerry Goldsmith back, so the music's very different. On this one, we get Alan Silvestri, who I think is a more conventional choice, but it's a fun theme. Good adventure music.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Alan Silvestri. I like this
Back to
piece.
the Future guy.
And then this definitely didn't throw the entire Mummy franchise off track as we desperately tried to recapture the magic of these two movies.
Again, like this comes out at such a weird time where we rush out a sequel because the 99 one was such a big hit. But then what do you do next? So we kind of sit on it for a while. We also make Van Helsing, which is chasing that vibe but doing something different. You know, didn't fully pan out. And then we go, okay, let's do The Mummy again. But we'll try something different. And then it wasn't good.
Well, it's just interesting thing about it in the whole franchise, not just this trilogy, but we had these two movies, and then we had a third one that came out like 7 years later, and then it goes dormant, and then you have Tom Cruise's The Mummy, which is trying to recapture the action of these, fails spectacularly, and then this year you had Lee Cronin's The Mummy, which is like overcompensating in the other way, was we're just going to do a horror movie, even if it doesn't have anything to do with mummies. It's just like a generic possession movie. And it's like, stop.
I mean, we're hitting all like the big franchise bullet points. Where next up, Legacy sequel.
Yep.
We'll see how it goes.
Yep.
God, if that movie's just titled The Mummy,
I'm gonna freak out.
We already have too many movies just called The Mummy. That's a problem outside of this franchise.
Would you rather watch The Mummy, or The Mummy?
The Mummy.
Oh. Well, if you're watching after the fact, thank you for watching. Please consider hitting that like and subscribe. And as always, our Patreon is in the link below. Have a good night, everybody.